Alice Gossage, and she had a great influence on Rapid City through the paper, through the civic organizations. And of course, once again, here the media comes in, the family band. Her maiden name was Bauer, and that was the family band, the Walt Disney film. And how many entities have a Walt Disney film to their credit? Okay, next. Grace French. Now, when we talk about the chronologers, I really put her up towards the head of the list. Okay, first of all, she's from New Hampshire. Great art training. Her dad figured that was really necessary for her and her sister Abby in Boston, the Boston Fine Arts and the Leedy Art Institute. And so here's a very cultured woman bringing her expertise to Rapid City, Dakota, because her dad had invested in Home State Mine, and she had two brothers and her sister Abby, and the mother. They come out to Rapid in 1885. And when I was collecting some of this stuff with no idea, this Hay Camp book, I noticed in the paper there was a Peggy Nelson, who was a former art student of Grace French in Rapid. The sale was held at Alex Johnson. But in the advertisement for the sale, it says there's some Grace French paintings. And I knew about Grace French because the museum has a nice collection of hers. Dull Fine Arts, every once in a while they'll have their, and they're major pieces. You know, I don't know what they'd be worth today. $10,000 a piece would be on the low side. In the three major art books from South Dakota, they say her still life, pictured by still life, she put a little figure in the corner somewhere, is still the standard that artists go by today. So here she comes, and her mother evidently went to this Episcopal Church. This is where she was buried, Mother Sarah, and about 6 years after they come here. And Grace and Abby lived on Quincy Street here, and this was pretty much her home. And this presentation will stay pretty close to this area. So we're talking about maybe 2 blocks. At one time they owned the land where Dakota Middle School is sitting at today. So her drawings and artwork, eventually I collected. I went to an estate sale of her best art student, Etta Anderson, and I bought her sketchbooks and that type of thing, and paintings and brushes, and Etta Anderson kept it all. And my wife and I donated it to the Junior Museum about 2 years ago, and they did a nice job with regard to restoring some things and did a little booklet. Honor, which is for sale, Grace French, pioneer artist and teacher, pursuit of art. Okay, what did she leave that the frontier photographers didn't get? Well, one thing, you have a picture of the Episcopal Church here in 1898, and a sketch of the courthouse when it burned down, Indian camps here within this block. But watercolors was her famous movement with regard to the art technique. But at that sale at Alex Johnson, I picked up a beautiful ornate framed painting of Canyon Lake Dam. And I turned the thing over and it said 1885, and I said, that can't be right. I mean, that dam couldn't have been there then. So I go to the Carl Leedy book, sure enough, it's there, 1885. And so those things are kind of exciting when you pick up something that you didn't know existed. And when they talk about the Journey Museum was a waste of money way back there when it started, you know, we don't have places like that. You know, how do we know it's us, you know? So I have some of her sketches here. They wouldn't come off too good on a black and white deal. At the table and Donna can kind of steer us towards them when it's over with. But she was a big influence within this block, because at that time there really wasn't any churches when she first came outside the Catholic Church. I think was the first one. The Episcopal Church was Lewis Hall, and the Library Hall was a housing place for many religious meetings. Grace herself kind of went to the Women Christian Temperance Union type, and her and her sister, her mother, are all buried here in Rapid. Okay, next. Okay, this is Episcopalian Church up in North Rapid, about where North Junior High is, Haynes Fire Department in there. Eventually closed because of lack of funds, but it was Episcopal Indian structure there that was quite a major undertaking, I would say. And a lot of times they ended up being kind of a hospital type of thing too. But that's an early picture. I mean, there's another structure around. Okay, next. Okay, Lewis Hall. This is, according to my research anyway, the first meeting place for the Episcopalians. And it was on Main Street, 700 block. Okay, you take Prairie Edge, you go down about the middle of the street. This is Lewis Hall. And I think in here somewhere we have a picture of old St. Joe in Maine, and this Justin Fay, I think there's a photography sign there somewhere. He comes from Deadwood, and his was the earliest picture I have, not of this, but of the scene I just described. But anyway, when church was held up above, Pool Hall was just below it, and you can see liquor and cigars, so I guess they had a pretty good attraction. Okay, so I go to the newspapers, at that time Black Hill Weekly Journal. So here's what it says: in the first few years of Rapid's existence, a number of church, civic, and social functions were held at Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall was a scene of much gaiety and pleasure Christmas evenings. And then, just below that, it says often, okay, this was December 27th, 1989, that this newspaper clipping was. It says often the service, church, was at a time when a game of billiards, at Lewis Hall was on below. So the lower part was the billiards and pool hall in there. And we could, this is quoted by Jenny Leedy Brennan, which is about as historic as you can get as far as family. She was the wife of John Brennan. It says often was on below, and we could not only hear the balls rolling and striking, but often voices. Okay, let's take it. Valentine McGillicuddy, quite a figure, United States over, but especially in the Black Hills. Talents, surveyor, he mapped pretty much the whole area. He was Indian agent, Pine Ridge, and Red Cloud was there. They conflicted quite a bit, but I would say that on the plus side, that McGillicuddy kind of kept Indian education on the reservation, places like Rapid City, instead of sending them off to Carlisle. And there's been 2 books written about him by Dan O'Brien in the last 3 years. One's called Indian Agent, and the other's called Contract Surgeon, so he's a surgeon as well. He's the first president of School of Mines, and very active in Rapid City the short time he was here. And once again, past news, present news, in McGillicuddy House, which is just a block or so, about a block and a half down the street, that they're trying to restore. Okay. William J. Collins, the foremost photographer, early day photographer of the year. Very young picture of him when he come to Rapid. He's from Canada, come down by way of Michigan, served as an apprentice in a photography shop. Come to Rapid, 1886, about 10 years after Rapid was born. Eventually bought out the rest of the Frontier photographers. So the collection at Arvada is not only his, but also of the Fuller brothers and that type of thing. And so we kept it in one area at least, and got out of state on this, but they're very good there. about letting us use things. And they did a photo book called Black Hills, White Sky from those, but they didn't have things identified. In fact, they didn't even have Collins identified. They had him identified as Collins, but it wasn't even him. So I think I helped them out a little bit. Okay, next. Fred Farrar. This was his dark wagon. Fred Farrar was local here, and he did a lot just before the turn of the century, and especially the street scenes. And his shots were so great with regard to impromptu parades and going into the Indian village here at Rapid. So I contacted the Farrar family. The youngest daughter was a photographer herself. She lived in Chadron. And so I paid her for the rights to use the ones that we did. Okay? Collins' picture, this is one of his favorites. The baby in the wicker basket cradle. Okay, next one. We had black influence in Rapid City. Once in a while you see the minstrel signs and that type of thing. And the Graves family band, which was actually here before Bauer family band was. And they had a yoke of 8 to 10 oxen in the initial parade celebrating the railroad coming of 1886. This is not Graves here, but Frank Graves was one of the outstanding runners and theatrical performers here in Rapid City. Okay, next. That was a Collins photo. Okay, the Holcombs. As you go to the airport, and then go past the airport a little bit, look off to the left, and there's a big red barn, H.O. Holcomb. Big cattle operators eventually. They came from Yankton. One of the first enterprises was set up the hotel. This is where the Rapid City Journal is. And they called it the Holcomb Hotel. They called it the Yankton Hotel, and then later the Merchant Hotel when they refaced it. Okay, next. Okay, now we're going through these pretty quick. Donna, what do we got, about 10 minutes maybe? Okay, what I'm going to do is just take you down Main Street a little bit. Okay, we're right on 5th Street and Main. And as we look to the right, this is where the new development's going in on the town square and that type of thing. As you look to the left, why the Journal would be on this first block. You see the trolley tracks, a horse-drawn trolley. They had the horse come from about where the post office is today to the west end of town, about where Halley Park is. Then take the horse and turn him around and come back this way. Okay, let's take a look and see some of the things that were going on. Restaurant, harness shop, next. This is Log Cabin Hotel again. This is Merchant Hotel now, right where the Journal is. Next. Fireman was one of the parade. The fire department was one of the first things that they developed, and Samuel Scott in 1882 made the motion at a city meeting to set up the fire department, and it's been going very strong since, of course, and that's basic tenet of the town. Okay, next. Here's a great shot of the Warren Lamb Lumber Company when they were using the hose teams to fight the fire. Rise Studio did that one. That's another studio that really helped out on these frontier photography pictures. Next. Here's a brass band about the same time as the fire department went in. And I won't have time to read it, but the Journal mentions that we were serenaded by the first brass band in Rapid City. And it was
playing this afternoon at the Journey.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I take a long connection there. That's 1882 to now. Okay. One of the first barber shops, the policeman on the left is the first. He was probably here before Hooky Jack. Not before, but about the same time. And Doc Pierce holding hands with her, I guess. So this is a barber shop, and it's right by where the Journey is today. Okay, next. International Hotel, a great shot of those heavy-duty stagecoaches that carried quite a bit of luggage besides passengers. This is the old Elks building down on 6th and Main. Okay, next. Okay, here are the freight wagons, said you could hear the bull snake snapping in the air, and it carried about 48,000 pounds of merchandise. And okay, the building across the street, American House Hotel, was John Brennan put in. Okay, next. Here's a little better shot of it. So that'd be on the corner, right across from Prairie Edge. Okay, next. Okay, here's an updated scene. This is where the American House was, which you just viewed. Elks Building, you can see off to the left. Okay, this is on the corner of 6th and Main on the south side. And then the Duhamel Building down on your left. Okay, next. Here's Duhamel sign. Alex Duhamel's there. One thing, a couple things I want to point out. The architectural dome building, that's the library. And that was your first social event place in Rapid City, and that's well documented in the newspapers. Okay, the big building would be the Foreman Building across from Alex Johnson. In Collins Studio, this is one thing. Collins Studio is right there. Okay, next. The library building, once again, is where so many social events were held, and this would be right down on the corner where the right on 6th Street and what would be the Kansas City, yeah, right. Okay, next. The Foreman, or the American State Bank, which is the first brick block commercial building in Rapid City. That'd be on 7th and Main. Next. Okay, now, Rapid's famous on parades, but you see the water fountain on the left, which they rediscovered here a couple years ago, and it's down there on 7th Street now. But the top part was used, the philanthropists from the eastern part of the United States gave money to many towns for fountains, the water the horses, and then the lower part is to water the dogs. Okay, and this would be on 7th and Main. Okay. Tom Sweeney, hardware, of course, very prominent business, and Saunders, groceries, and later bakery. Okay, next. Tom Sweeney himself, next. Okay, now we're starting on the right side, on the 5th and Main. Architectural dome, okay, next. Okay, the first post office was in this particular building. And John Brennan was the first postmaster. Okay, these are boardwalk days. Okay, Franklin and Bear, Montana store next to it. This is where Prairie Edge stands today. Okay, next. A Montana store. Felix Vanansky, he was a famous Jewish merchant that did a lot for Rapid. And Montana store is where Joe Gossage bought his wedding suit. Okay, now, it's very historical significant, and this is where the newspapers come in too. They took down Franklin Bear, moved the Montana store in the middle of the street on 6th Street there. But you see the brick structure going up, that's what Prairie Edge is today. So this is 1886, okay, next. This is where Prairie Edge is today, this is Morris Dry Goods. Okay, next. One of Fred Farrar's great pictures of Stockman days, kids having the potato race. Next. Spectators, quite a variety. Next. Okay, Stockman days were Indian days, Leedy said. He says without the Indian people from Pine Ridge, which is about 3,000, he says it would have been a flop. And next. Next. Okay, this is a picture of Farrar would take out in the Indian camps when they'd have the mock battles between the cavalry and the Indians. It was a big event here because Indian people would pick up their children to school at the end of the session, and that's when they had the Stockman days. Next. Quite a variety in parade spectators. Next. The emblem of the building you see in the back, that's where the Radisson is today. Okay, the big gathering, the reason for it, stock market crash. Next. This is the west end of Main Street. Fallon drugstore off to the right. The far building down there is a Jesper House, later turned into the Patton Hotel. Next. Patton House, close to Murphy's Bar, if that helps you. Next. Fallon drugstore, see the false tree deal they have in front. Next. Okay, this is where the Alex Johnson sits today. Okay, next. We'll swing over to St. Joe Bureau Building. We're looking east. Plumber's Piano building to the right. These are boardwalk days. Alex Johnson isn't there yet. Next. The Floorman building, which is really a big addition, about 1803, 1804. Okay, next.
19.
I mean 19, yeah. No, 18.
No.
The Floorman building?
Well, 19, it can't be 18.
I mean, they said
No, I said
03.
1803, 1893.
Oh,
1893. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I mispronounced it. Okay, on the left, take a good look at the left there. There's two major buildings and a frame building. Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, this is an Italian night facade, like Prince and Pauper was in there, you know, that type of thing. Alex Johnson isn't born yet. Okay, on the left, that's Samuel Scott's mining house or business place. Okay, next. Mallows, one of the first meat markets ever in Rapid, and they had land where the old Mother Butler used to be. Okay, next. First railroad station in Rapid City, 1886, is down about where the post office is today. Next. Next. Okay, this sign right here, that the native soldiers are carrying, it says that the Indians have bought $20,000 worth of war bonds. This is World War I. This parade is on St. Joe. Okay, next. Rapid City High School, and which is just over here, a block or so. This is the fundamental building. And okay, next. For our picture. Next. The only living person I had in the first edition, or even second edition, is Wes Evans. He played for UCobb, where the Cobblers are named after. The reason I brought him, I think he kind of connects both eras, the early day era, and later he's a football coach here, one of the best football coaches ever in the state. A school administrator, long time. Next. Okay, Chauncey Yellow and his wife and daughter Rosebud, very prominent figures, talented people. He would, if you had to put a term on him, probably like a student counselor type of thing, but basically he was a figurehead of the Indian school, and a movie actor, he was a radio personality, and our daughter Rosebud was the one that gave the headdress to President Coolidge. I've seen her with a picture getting off a train with Eleanor Roosevelt. Her foundation scholarship at university is one of the biggest ever, and what a talented family. He was there from about 1903 to whenever there, and still Yellow Road's here today. Next. This is the Indian School Complex.
Where was that, Dave?
It's still there.
Suzanne.
Suzanne. Okay, this again, that Canyon Lake Road, right?
Yeah.
Canyon Lake Road. And as you take a look over there, that would be West Main on the top. And all this would be Hall Street. place was Rapid City High School. And if we take a look at the fellow, maybe get a pointer on him, the tallest man there with the hat on the, yeah, right. No, the other one, that's right.
The straw hat.
Yeah, no, the big kind of cowboy hat type of thing, yeah. Okay, he's one of the first presidents of the security. His name is Starling. One of the first presidential security men ever. Started around with Franklin Delano Roosevelt time, went through about 4 presidents. Coolidge being one of them. This is a dark canyon. This is when he's here on his summer tour. Okay, next. Spectator Hill, right out here, about 2 blocks down. That's where these people were sitting, about 2 blocks down to the south. Okay, this is where the Sham battles took place. Frank Lockhart with the bear. He was an emissary of the guys brought these stock shows and Indian days together. And the Lockhart family, he's the sheriff of the Lockhart family, very well known here in Rapid City. Fellow sitting down, McNamara, he had the McNamara bookstore. Fellow standing up, fellow named Pasco next. Okay, this is about the West Boulevard area. Actually, if you're at the regional hospital looking north, this would be, can we run that pointer along those spectators up to the top? Okay, okay, so the street in front of them would be A Street, right out here. And that's where the Sham battles. You see the Indians hiding down here? Okay, cavalry's over there. Okay, then they use that big area for their big show. Next. Next. Closer shot of the spectators. Next. Airplane. Had been pretty much the inception of the airplanes those times in there. Early 1900s. Next.
That's the 100th anniversary of the first flight in South Dakota.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, on the left would be Morris Kelly, big time cattleman. The fellow on the horse, Fred Holcomb, the Holcomb Ranch. So this is later, these guys are old men now. When they come here, they're very young. Next, gable shot of the Bermuda. Cattle culture was big here. Next. The Methodist Hospital, which is right over here, about a block, where the bagel shop is, be the next building. Next. And this is where we're in, and this is where we got started. So I think we'll leave it off there, and hope you enjoyed the trip through the town. Thanks a lot there, Father, for doing that. If there's any. One other thing, I have some Grace French pictures up here. Come on, over the screen. And the Hate Camp book, if you want to purchase any, I would say the Journey Museum in Prairie Edge, you have all the autographed copies. If you want a personal autograph, let them know and I'll come down and do it. It's Grace French book is very good that ties in with your church quite well too. The Journey has that.
Remember next week we have a speaker, Mr. Charles Ray.